Welcome back, players. I am Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat. And keep your paper towels and milk handy, because one of the spiciest titles in recent years is coming to the Schwarz stage. That's right, Mushoku Tensei, or Jobless Reincarnation, is coming to English. For those of you not in the know, let me tell you about Mushoku Tensei. So imagine your average isekai anime, right? A total piece of shit with emotional issues out the ass receives a lethal dose of truck to the face and finds out that the Buddhists were right all along, minus the part about M-theory and multiple dimensions, and of course ends up in another world. Well, here's the thing, right? I don't mean like a Cosmo piece of shit, or a Subaru piece of shit, or any other loser protag that could be picked out of a hat. I mean a real, bona fide scum of the earth that no one could love. And I don't mean reincarnated into some other world with a body and the abilities to take any demon lord to school or any female knight to bed right out of the gate. I mean coming into a strange world as a literal baby. Basically, what if an isekai unironically owned up to its premise? And what if it just stayed unapologetic? And on top of that, dumped a shitload of money into a studio pretty much formed exclusively to animate this show, and wrote some of the most tragic, funny, emotional, raunchy, and downright morally corrupt shit you've ever read subtitles for. Oh, and ground up everything neckbeards idolize about anime girls and made waifus out of its pure essence. Well, that's pretty much what Mushoku Tensei is in a nutshell. And let me tell you, if your sensibilities are easily offended or your moral compass has a strong magnet, there's a lot about this show you'll dislike. The show is truly both a love letter and a damning condemnation to pieces of shit everywhere, and damn does it look good while it forces down some hard-to-swallow pills. Look, I'm not going to go tell you to watch Mushoku Tensei. I'm not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. I'd encourage you to do your own research and decide for yourself whether or not Mushoku Tensei belongs in your search history. But you don't need to watch a minute of it to know that people love these girls, and the cards they're on do some pretty amazing shit. So this is going to be one hell of a set. Now, with the introductory BS out of the way, let's look at this Schwarz expansion. Starting with some basic collecting information, Mushoku Tensei is a normal-sized Weiss set with 100 cards and 36 parallel foils. Of these, 5 are SPs and 5 are SSPs. The Trial Deck Plus for Mushoku Tensei also has 2 different SPs, one being a very strong level 1 combo with Rudius, and the other one being a Roxy with Wet Clothes, so I all think we know what the hit is here. But yeah, no matter what flavor you like, there's a shiny card for you. Now let's talk mechanics. So as far as we can see from our graphic here, Mushoku Tensei does have the basics we expect from modern Schwarz set, including on-attack advantage, good early plays, and hand filtering. The set is also universally traded to 6-sided world, so you can run anything with anything else. However, the set is definitely waifu and pairing focused, with plenty of characters, especially Roxy and Sylphie, having mechanics that work with Rudius specifically. Further, we do see the inclusion of Standby, and this is an 8 Standby set with a level 1 advantage and level 3 finishing combo, both on Standby climaxes. So yes, 8 Standby is going to be a very strong option here. And as we'd expect with any set with standby focus, you definitely see some big power numbers. However, as attractive as that is, it's far from all the set has to offer. It has defensive combos, anti-damage and rest counters, and other 1k1 focus deck packages. But that said, let's move into some basic structure. So Mushoku Tensei is 4 colors with a pretty wide spread across all colors, with yellow and blue having a much smaller share of the card pool individually because their packages are so intertwined. Green is a larger section with a lot of standalone stuff, things that can be teched into other decks, but also keywords to some yellow stuff. And red has a large card pool and mostly builds into itself. This makes sense as red carries both Eris and Ghislaine and their double standby package. Yellow has Rudius himself, as well as Dear Mom and Pop and Lilia. Blue is pretty much just Roxy, and the pairing between Roxy and Rudius is very built into the package. Green has Sylphiette and Rougierd and some other minor characters. Like blue, it has a lot of good cards, but the kit is clearly meant to be combined with yellow in some way to create a Sylph and Rudius or Rougierd and Rudius pairing. And now that we've gone over the basics, let's start at level 0 and highlight some choice cards. So an obvious place to start is Magical Talent Rudius. At 1500, he gets plus 2k if you have 5 or more cards in hand, and at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can move him to the open center position of your stage. This is the exact profile as to Seas Freedom Armin from Titan, and it's a very strong one, which makes it an automatic inclusion in most decks. Another no-brainer in a lot of decks is Beautiful Sword Fighter Eris. Base 1500, and on play, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a character or an event called Money Can't Buy Dere, you put it under her as a marker. During your turn, if she has a marker, she gets plus 2k and she's a queen cut, meaning that when she reverses something, you can rest another one of your characters and move it to an open position of your backstage. As far as queen cuts go, it's pretty average, but it's still a solid choice. Also featuring Eris, we have her angelic sleeping face. Base 1500, if you have 2 or less stock, she gets plus 1500 power. And when she reverses a battle opponent, you can choose a level 0 character in your opponent's front row and put it into their waiting room. This is actually really strong, letting you deal with other zeros that have obnoxious effects without directly engaging them. Very solid. Now those are some good front row characters, but let's talk support. One of the best zeros that Mushoku Tensei has is called Childhood Friend Sylphie. She gives every other character plus 500, and she has an act ability to pay 1, send her to memory, and top check 3 for a character. Basically, a memory compression guaranteed brainstorm. Sylphie also gives some extra boost to other cards while she's in memory, but overall, she's just a solid card. But speaking of brainstorms, let's actually highlight some from the set. One of them is Roxy, What You Can Offer. She's a tap self salvage brainstormer that has the additional ability that when you play a climax, you can give a character pay 1 double trigger. Nothing special, but solid. She's the primary advantage brainstormer in the set. Then we have 2 in green. First, there's Sylphiette, but hers only works with bar climaxes. It is mill 5, but she's obviously locked into the mono green kit. Second, there's Adventurers Guild Receptionist. She's a non-tap, search 1 discard brainstormer that if you have 2 or more characters when you play her, lets you draw 1 and pitch 1. She's a popular addition to the standby decks for the filtering aspect she offers. Strangely, yellow and red do not have brainstormers. The rest of the Mushoku Zero suite is very toolboxy. There are a lot of characters that bounce other characters, stuff that switch around characters, climaxes, and level zone cards on play, and also the clock from hand free Ricky Rougiard. But let's move into the level 1. Now Mushoku Tensei at level 1 diverges into 2 distinct kits, a third if you count green, but it exists in a much smaller way for level 1. So in this video, we'll focus on the yellow and blue pairing and the red standby kit, and briefly visit some tech from green. Opening with the yellow and blue kit focusing on Rudius and Roxy, we'll start with the Rudius level 1 combo, which is actually in the trial deck. Jobless Reincarnation Rudius is a base 5k and only has 1 ability, which is his climax combo, being on a choice climax. When he attacks, if your experience is 2 or greater, top check 3, add a character, and he gets plus 1500 for the turn. It's not bad on attack advantage and okay power, but on its own it's kind of lackluster. But check out some of the stuff supporting it in the toolkit. Daily Growth Rudius is a 1/1 that has an on-play ability to discard the level 0 Rudius runner at the start of your climax phase. If you do, you can search your deck for one of the Rudius choice climaxes and just play it out. Also, he's an anti-early play stock swapper, so busted much? To my knowledge, there just isn't much in the entire game that lets you fish out your climax combo for basically free, especially not on a card with even further utility. Yeah, it's pretty damn good. You also have some back row support in the form of learning to cook Roxy. All of your characters get plus 500, all your Jobless Reincarnation Rudius get plus 1k, and if you're level 3 or higher, you can put her into the waiting room to play her back row level 3 for free. So yeah, this whole kit is pretty fucking solid. This could potentially get awkward if you have to level with yellow and have no blue, but there are zeros that can switch out cards in your level zone in Mushoku Tensei, so fear not for that experience or color requirement. Speaking of color requirements, let's touch on a bit of green tech that fits nicely into this package. Mastering Magic Sylphiette is base 3500, and during your turn, if you have a card in memory, she gets plus 2500 power, and if she's facing a level 2 opponent, another plus 6000 power. And if you have Living Seriously Rudius in your level zone, which happens to be a yellow level 3, she gets another plus 1k, and can be played without meeting her color requirement. Don't you love 1/13ks? I sure do. Very obviously an anti-standby tech piece, on top of the anti-early play stock swapper we already have in this kit. And of course, she fits perfectly with the experience goal for your level 1 combo. So yeah, really strong in this set of cards. Now all that's pretty good, but let's go to the other side of the set. We're talking red and the 1/1 Eris standby combo. Ferocious Tsundere Eris is base 5500 and she gets plus 2k if you're playing a legal deck. She has a climax combo with standby, where when you play the climax, if she's in your center stage, you put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room, then salvage an X or lower character, where X is the combined level of those 2 cards. So not only is this an absolutely free, non-interactive, pre-attack cigarettes effect, but you can also use it before activating the standby trigger, meaning that you put 2 additional potential targets in your waiting room before you even have to use the trigger for each Eris you have out. And she's basically still printed 7500. Yikes. Nothing less for Eris, I'd imagine. The best level 1 standby combo in English Weiss, hands down. and red is not without its level 1 support options. Swordsmanship Jizzlane is a 1/0 4K that gets plus 500 for each other character, and at the start of your climax phase, you can accelerate to give her another plus 1K, and on reverse, top check 4 and add a character. Was a free advantage standby combo not good enough for you? How about a level 1 combo free advantage 106K? Sasuke Jizzlane. So yeah, both red and the yellow and blue toolkit are very strong. In green, Sylphia does have a 1/0 Minabinita combo on a bar that gets plus 2K on attack if you have the level 0 Sylphia in your memory. It's actually not that bad. And there's 2 pretty good events, one for each kit. Amulet of Migurd is a 1/0 event that can't be played if you don't have a character with Roxy in the name, but when you play it, you search your deck for a character, add it to hand, pitch a card, and then send this to memory. Then, when you level up, if it's in your memory, you can send it to your waiting room and search out another character from your deck. So a delayed double filter that memory compresses and hand fixes. All things considered, pretty neat. And in red, you have a 1/1 event called Money Can't Buy Dere. It's a counter event, and you choose one character in battle and one character in your waiting room, return them to your hand, and then pitch a card. This is actually the same text as the Titan Set 2 maneuver gear. Not sure what the relationship is, but whatever. But this is where we move into level 2 for some really spicy hits. Now level 2 is usually filled with utility and backups, which Mushoku has in spades. However, being that it's a standby focused set, you know there has to be a strong 2/2 standby target. Hold your nut for this card. Strong Body Jizzlane is 5k and gets plus 2k for each character in your back row, and she gives all your other characters plus 1k. Do you like standby? Do you like power? Do you see how this could get pretty out of control pretty fast? How about a 2/2 that itself is a global 1k boost? All I can say is, standby bonsai. And this Jizzlane also comes in SP for all you muscle girl furries out there. Now don't fret, Eris also has a generic 2/2 with Hand Encore if you're looking for options. However, let's look at some tech and backups. There's a 2/1 Rudius that turns into a 2/1 10k with 2 soul as long as you have the Roxy Brainstormer, which considering the experience for the level 1 Rudius is a really good deal. There's also a Jizzlane that appears on this 2/1 anti-change backup that makes you sack a character from your stage, which is okay. It's an option if you want it, but the Rudius counter is some hot fire. Childish Things Rudius is a 2/1 2500 backup that's also a pay 4 pitch 1 rest counter. Is that expensive? Oh yeah, but any rest counter is, especially ones that can be searched out on a character. The very inclusion of it as an option on a 2/1 character backup is amazing for most any set. Now interestingly, the set also has a 2/1 event called Sylph, which is another form of defensive counter. When you play it, you can either use it as a 2/1 4k backup, or pitch a copy of itself and prevent a character from dealing damage this turn. So yeah, Mushoku has some hits at level 2, but it's time to move on to level 3 because we have a lot to discuss. Now Mushoku at level 3 has 2 pretty distinct finishing kits for standby and non-standby decks. There's also a pretty developed green finishing kit at 3, but to start, let's talk about some tech. And what deck would be complete without some good early plays? And like many things, you have choices that fit neatly into both kits. Let's start with the level 3 that we talked about earlier with Sylphiet and Rudius, Live Seriously Rudius. At base 9k, he gets -1 level if you have 4 more characters, and gets plus 1500 if you have experience 6 or more. Further, he gets plus 4500 when he's played, and can be backed up against. And that's really it, he's just a massive 2-soul beater. But again, he's mainly there to activate the experience for Rudius and also turn on Sylphie. You know, when I think about it, Rudius, the guy who was reincarnated into another world, having cards with the experience mechanic is kind of low-key clever. Anyway, let's talk about the red early play, a daughter of the Boreas family, Eris. She's 9500 and gets -1 level if you have 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room. If you have 2 or more other characters, she gets plus 1500 and the ability that when she's reversed, you can pitch a card and return her to your hand, which is pretty cool because on play, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if you see a character or the Dairy event, you burn 1. So an 11k 2 or less early play that can be recycled for repeated free burns. What's not to love? Seriously, this is awesome. Now checking out green for a second, Rugierd has an early play too. He comes out early if you had the level 0 runner Rudius in your clock, and on play you can heal the bottom card of your clock, thus preventing you from only being able to play 1, which is really nice. Then, at the start of your climax phase, you can return him to your hand and put Rugierd, Spurred Warrior, another level 3, on the stage where he was, and since we're at level 3, let's go into that Rugierd. So Spurred Warrior Rugierd on play immediately gives all your opponent's characters in the center stage -1k for every level they have. So if you play 3 of these, that's -9k to wave heal to level 3s. He's also printed 10-5, so pretty damn strong on top of this ability, and he has a climax combo on a bar. On attack, top check 2 of your opponent's deck, choose up to 2 cards, trash them, and then put the rest back, then do the same to the top 2 cards of your deck. This should sound familiar because this is the Mocha effect, which not only lets you fish out cancels from your opponent's deck, but also lets you control your triggers to avoid overswings. It's an extremely powerful effect that happens here to be printed on an already powerful combination of early plays and changes. Don't you dare sleep on Ruijerd. This combo is crazy strong. I know these characters aren't exactly the waifu characters of the set, but man, there is some seriously good stuff here, so go build some green decks. And finally in the utility department, we actually have the king of scum himself, Paul. At base 8500, if he's in your center stage, all of your characters get plus 1500, and when he attacks, you can pay 1 to double trigger. He also has an ability where when the damage dealt to you during his battle is cancelled, you can pitch a character and put the top card of your deck into your waiting room. If it has a soul trigger, you can reflect the damage back. Man, Paul really gets in, doesn't he? But let's get back and visit some other cards, preferably ones with cute girls on them, like Roxy. Before we get into the set's main finisher for its 2 toolkits focused around the obvious waifu pairings, we have 2 Roxys, a back row, and a secondary finisher. Meagered Mage Roxy is the back row that the level 1 back row Roxy can play for free, and she gives all characters in front of her plus 2k. On play, you also draw 2 and pitch 1. Finally, she has a third ability that when you trigger a climax, you can choose a character, give them plus 1k, and pay 1 to double trigger, effectively letting you keep your stock very clean. While on its own, it's only mediocre bordering on good, but being that you can play it for free either by using level 1 Roxy or with standby, it becomes a staple in most any deck that isn't super green focused. Roxy also has a secondary finisher, Chanting Roxy. On play heal, and on attack, pay 2, ditch 2, burn 2. That's a pretty standard cost for a non-combo burn 2, but she also heals, making her a pretty damn good secondary finisher and healer. Now let's get to the main event. Warm Look Roxy is the yellow and blue deck's main finisher. On play, she also heals, and at base 9k gets plus 2k on your turn. Her combo is on a pants, and at the end of this card's attack, you can choose one of 2 effects. You can either burn 1 for free, or pitch 2 cards and burn 3. So this is really nice for a few reasons. First, you can of course choose whether or not to ping for precision damage or burn for closing numbers, and second, you do so after the attack, thus you know whether or not the attack damage actually stuck. And further, this is a very low cost, and easily tuned and playable across multiple attacks. It's a great way to top off the blue and yellow kit. Now, let's move on to the red finisher, Ghislaine. So at base 9k, strong female sword fighter Ghislaine, if you have a full stage, gets plus 5,000 power and can't be backed up against or have events used during her battle by your opponent, and she heals. If a 14k healer that can't be interacted with wasn't enough for you, she has a climax combo on a standby trigger where you can pay 2 and burn 2. Now, is this particularly explosive? Not really. However, it's a massive body that cannot be interacted with, and neither can the burn or the damage it does except by natural cancelling. It's guaranteed to do its thing, and practically guaranteed to kill its battle opponent. If Ghislaine has one thing going for her, it's inevitability. And this is pretty much the whole of it. Mushoku Tensei is full of great cards, and there are some I definitely could have talked about or added to the video, but sometimes there's valor in brevity. This also leaves you players at home with some incentive to check out Mushoku Tensei for yourselves, and I'd highly recommend you do, the Weiss Schwarz set at least. I make no statements regarding the anime or manga. We disavow. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.